Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another round of sound. This is the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. I'm Bob Pompeani. As always, we thank you for joining us, and happy Mother's Day to all the wonderful mothers out there in our audience who watch this program. We have a lot to get into tonight, including the Steelers. Their rookie orientation week is over. Tension in certain areas of that team. We'll talk about, is that good or bad for business? The Pirates, are they sustainable? 23-17, just taking 2 out of 3 from the San Francisco Giants. But the #1 topic tonight on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown will be the Penguins, who are now out of the playoffs after a 6-game elimination by the Capitals. Here is your panel, left to right on your television screen. We got Paul Zeise from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette and the Paul Zeise program. To the left in the middle is Jason Mackey, outstanding beat writer for the Post-Gazette for the Penguins. And Chris Mueller, Starkey Mueller, every day, 2 to 6 on 93.7 The Fan. All right, so Jason Mackey, let's get right into this. A lot of people didn't see an ouster coming at the hands of the Capitals. But when you look back at that series, just give me your overview on why it went badly for the Penguins. Was this a coaching thing? Was this a specific player thing? What was your assessment?
Well, Pomp, I think a couple things went into this. And no, I don't think it was a coaching situation. Number one, the thing that I've been saying, scoring, the Penguins didn't get enough. The Capitals got way more, and the Penguins can't contend when they're a one-line team. Very few teams can. Defensively, they weren't good enough. Too many odd man rushes in the totality of the series, and it's something that we saw for the bulk of the season. Goaltending, Braden Holtby played better than Matt Murray. Simple as that. And I guess the fourth thing is you just kind of have to tip your cap. The Penguins have played a lot of hockey over the past 3 seasons now. Nothing to be embarrassed about, but the Capitals get paid to win too, and they're playing really well.
I think that this is a team that was normally in the best times defined by being all finishers, basically. And I would echo just about everything Jason said. I think this was simple, that Phil Kessel wasn't his usual self. That gave them an added edge in previous postseason runs, the previous 2. Matt Murray was an edge or flurry, depending on who was playing in pretty much every series. And the Penguins had chances to kind of put the skate on the throat, so to speak, in this series, and they didn't take advantage of them. Leading 3-2, Murray gives up a bad tying goal in Game 3, which I thought was maybe a series-turning moment. Leading late again in Game 5 or Game 4, whatever. Game 5, I'm even getting them mixed up now.
Yeah, 5.
Game 5, and unable to close the show in that game. I just look at that and say that's a team that normally finishes in the playoffs that we, at least under Mike Sullivan, that didn't this time.
I know that the Penguins are supposed to beat the Capitals, but I think the analysis of this, I've heard it for a week or whatever, how long it's been, is just really making it very difficult. The Capitals, to me, were better than the Penguins, period. And I think that, as Jason said, the Penguins became a one-line team, #1. And #2, defensively, they were not good or consistent for most of the entire season. So it's like I said all week, it's really fitting that the season ended on with a turnover and an odd man rush and an odd man break and a goal, because that's the story of the season. So the Capitals and Penguins have now played 3 years in a row in the playoffs, and it's 10-9 in terms of games. And I bet you out of those 19 games, probably 13 or 14 of them were 1-goal games. So it's not like the Penguins were really dominating them the last 2 years. It shouldn't be a shock that the Capitals finally won.
Is fatigue a real thing? Because some people believe that's an excuse, Jason. Do you think fatigue is real, and how does it impact the team? You look at them, you look at Nashville, they're also eliminated. They had the second most. San Jose had a lot of games. They're eliminated as well. How real is that?
I think it's partially real, Bob, and here's what I mean. I don't think the Penguins were tired. I don't think they lost the series because they were more tired than the Capitals, or the same thing for Nashville. But what you can't do is fake desire and the want to that you have to have as an athlete to overtake another team. And the Capitals just flat out wanted it more than the Penguins. And that's not to say the Penguins weren't motivated or were tired or any of this stuff. It's just they were trying to drum up this extra gear that the Capitals had naturally. And a couple years ago, the Penguins had it. And you see some teams in the West, Winnipeg, Vegas, what they're riding right now, you can't fake that. And Nashville had been there. I just think that freshness has a little bit to do with it. The biggest thing is just not being able to fake that extra gear.
I mean, how many actual players on the Penguins played a full slate? Crosby did, right? Pretty much played all the time.
Matta did this year.
Kessel.
Yeah, Kessel.
I mean, if you go back through the 3 seasons, the people that were actually part of every run, there's very few of them. Malkin's always hurt in the regular season. It might even be a boon to him that he is. Most of the guys get what you would amount to say is a decent break, or what you'd say is a decent break during the regular season. I'm not going to chalk it up to garden variety fatigue. I think that's a convenient cop-out for people that are unhappy that the team lost, especially to a team that they always beat. I don't buy fatigue one bit for this team. If anything, it might be closer to what Jason said, but nobody wants to say something like, man, maybe just 2 was enough for these guys and they couldn't muster the desire to do what was necessary.
I think when you look at Nashville, if Pecorini doesn't turn into just completely gag all over himself in Game 7, maybe they're still playing. And if Kühnackle's shot in overtime is about, 3 inches this way, the Penguins get to a Game 7 and maybe the whole narrative on this thing changes. Again, I think people don't understand how hard it is to win 1 championship, much less 2 in a row. And winning 3 in a row, the odds are so stacked against you that, to me, people should have been surprised if the Penguins went on and won it, as opposed to being surprised that they didn't get there. I don't think it's fatigue. I just think there's a lot of really good teams, and eventually they're going to find a way to win.
All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, though, we're going to talk about the future. We're also going to ask a question about who of the big-name players may be traded in this offseason, and we'll talk about whether that's the right way to go. There's still lots of hockey talk coming up, but I want to remind you that, when an owner puts together a perfect team, they know it'll be a winner, and that must be how Rob Cochran feels right about now, because number 1 Cochran Nissan, what they have done has been amazing. Number 1 Cochran just acquired Pittsburgh East Nissan and West Hills Nissan, giving them 3 local Nissan stores in Pittsburgh's first ever Nissan Super Group. That means triple grand opening events going on right now, and it means great pricing power and 3 times the inventory for you. So check out number 1 Cochran Nissan, Monroeville, West Hills, and the South Hills. More Penguin talk when we come back. The number 1 Cochran Sports Showdown is brought to you by number 1 Cochran, Go One Better, and by Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield. Have a greater hand in your health.